and welcome back to the Irish Edge show for Cheltenham in association with Boyle Sports. Before we get started, just want to thank everyone for tuning in all week long to this show. It's been doing quite well. Thanks to all our viewers, and again, thanks to our sponsor, Boyle Sports, for making it all happen. Make sure and like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, because there'll be loads more coming in for the rest of the jump season and for the flat as well. But joined again by Gavin Lynch to preview the last day at Cheltenham. Gavin, where has the time gone? The week has been flying by, plenty of upsets, but it's been exciting anyway.
Yeah, sure has been exciting, Emma. Plenty of upsets. I wish the ground was a bit softer, but that's just me. I suppose the main talking point so far has been the jumping of some of the well-fancied horses. Two fallers in the champion hurdle, Con Hill and Stateman, and then Madgebury jumped poorly, and also Ballyburn, and then John Bond. So it's certainly been a very much an up and down week, and I'd say the bookmakers are in front after 2 days.
They certainly are, but we are surely in front after yesterday. A nice few winners tipped up on the show. Jimmy Desoy, Stumptown. You had a good mention for Marine National in the champion chase, and we were both on Jazzy Matty as well in the Grand Annual. So look, if we're not ahead by now, we're in a bit of trouble going into the last day of racing.
Well, you deserve a huge mention now to come up with Jimmy Desoy. That's a round of applause. That's brilliant, considering he hadn't ran in 313 days or something, and you were quite sweet on him. I wonder, could he develop into a stayers hurdle horse perhaps next season if they decide to stay over hurdles? But yeah, well done. He absolutely posted up 16-1, so well done, Emma.
Yeah, it was, it couldn't have been much easier viewing. Maybe he thought he was a little bit too keen, but he couldn't have done it much easier in Danny's hands. And yeah, look, he's made in hurdle form was strong. And yeah, he's probably one who can kick on for it. You'd imagine he was showing plenty at home, but hopefully we can find a few more winners in the same vein on the last day at least. But sure, we'll go straight into the action. And you were kind of mentioning about how the bookmakers are probably ahead at this stage anyway, but the Triumph Hurdle looks like one of the main market leaders will have a fair hold on this. I suppose the UK have been holding their own in the Prestbury Cup so far, and they've definitely got a strong hand in the Triumph Hurdle to play again. East India Dock is 2-1 favourite for Sam Twist and Davis and James Owen. Lulamba was always a big talking horse for the Nicky Henderson team under Nico DeVoyville, and Hello Neighbour is the big Irish challenger for Gavin Cromwell and Keith Donoghue. It looks like a very good triumph, Gavin. What has been your opinion on this one?
Yeah, I think it's been very, very good. East India Dock has been very, very good on the clock so far. 2 excellent runs, very fast times. I'd imagine his table companion might make the running for the first mile, and then at the top of the hill, East India Dock might go and take it up from OPEC. The question is, do you believe the clock or do you believe your eyes? Lulamba was, looked top class in Ascot. Obviously, Mondoman has let the form down since at Kempton. But he did look very, very good. Lulamba having won also previously at Otay. The one thing I'll say is that the last 4 winners of the Triumph Hurdle have ran, their last run beforehand was in what we used to call the Spring Juvenile Hurdle at the DRF, and Hello Neighbour won that. I think Keith learnt a huge amount from his run at Christmas. He went straight into a graded hurdle, just hung on there that day from Lady Vega, Alain. And the last day, Keith, first time in a hood, the horse knocked Keith, and held up a lot later. Jumped much better, came there at the last, and you thought to yourself, this horse is going to bolt away by 4 lengths. Didn't, only won by a length from Galileo Dame. It'll be interesting to see how she gets on this afternoon in the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. I think Lady Vega Alain is probably slightly overlooked, 12 or 14-1 at the minute. This race is over 2 miles, one on the new circuit. It's a huge test. It's just basically a staying race for 4-year-olds. I think she's got an each way chance. But right now, I've had a couple of bets in the race a while ago. But if I was having a bet right now, maybe Hello Neighbour each way at 5 or 6-1.
Very good. Yeah, he had the hood on first time, and I kind of agree with you. It doesn't look like he does a whole pile. And watching Hello or that Galileo Dame will give a good gauge of that form, I suppose. Look, she was actually the one I was tipping up for this all along. I thought she might have headed here, but it takes up the engagement in the Mayor's Novice instead. So I'm probably going to deflect back to East India Dock, to be honest. I think he's a horse I really like. Obviously, a half-brother of Burdett Road, but kind of looks like a bit of a different proposition. He just looks like a bit of a terrier, doesn't he? Like, he just puts his head down, he gallops, he loves the track. Golden Horn has had a winner already this week with Golden Ace. Look, I think he's the one they all have to beat. I think he's the deserved favourite, and with Galileo Dame, my kind of long-term fancy for this not showing up, I'm probably just going to stick with the favourite here, being a little bit boring. But we'll go on to the first handicap of the day on the Friday. 16 runners lining up for the county hurdle, but I mean, not a full field, but it's definitely a field packed with quality. We've got last year's winner, Absurd, lining up again for Willie Mullins. But Paul Townend has chosen to ride Cargate, second in last year's Triumph Hurdle, and she's the 3-1 market leader with Boyle Sports, betting 5 places each way in this one. Lark in the Morning, last year's Fred Winter winner, 9-2. Absurd, again, last year's winner under Danny Mullins, 5-1. 13-2, Dan Skelton's Valgard. I suppose if you're looking at this race, I'm looking through previous winners, Willie Mullins and Dan Skelton are the men to have on side. Gavin, are you with one of their winners or something else?
I think it's actually the best handicap of the week, the best quality handicap. As you said, there's only 16 in it. This race can take 22 or 24. It didn't get the full field, but that's no harm. I'm going to go for Lark in the Morning. Won the Fred Winter last year off 122 on ground that it didn't like. Don't forget, it did win a barrier trial at Dundalk, so there's no issue with the good ground. If you're looking for county hurdle winners, always check out the barrier trials. But wins the Fred Winter last year off 122, got injured then in his run last May, reappeared at Christmas, and I'm going to contradict myself here, but he was a massive eye catcher in the fog. If you could pick him out at all, he was last more or less at halfway, ducked up the inside in the straight, huge eye catcher for me, only beaten seven or eight lengths, and runs in here off 132, got a lovely racing weight for Joseph, whose horses are in good form. I think he's got a massive chance, whatever he is now, 5 or 6-1. As you mentioned, Absurd won it last year, is £8 higher, has a good chance. And the thing this year is that Absurd will much prefer the better ground than it had last year, so definitely has a strong squeak. Cargate, as you mentioned, second in the Triumph last year to Magic, second to Sergino at Aintree, that's top class form. Was very much on her toes and keen and sweating up, etc. before and during the race at Ascot. She really needs to behave herself. If she does, it's obviously interesting, and it's a point of the Paul has decided to ride her. So she has probably the most upside, but it's a bit of a worry, isn't it? I don't like backing keen horses, and backing her right now, you maybe consider her in running, but I don't know. I think it's a big chance to take that she is going to behave herself beforehand and during the race. So at 3-1, maybe her attitude would be a smaller worry. McLaury is much higher than he was. He won off 120 at the DRF. I think he's an improving type. He was given very much an educational ride last time. He was held up a long way out the back, stayed on down the outside for Mark Walsh. And also Valgran is worth a mention, dropped £6 by the English handicapper. He's friends with Dan. He's been nice to him again. And he's been dropped from 140 to 134. He's a decent animal. But yeah, I'm going to go for Lark in the Morning of 132 for Joseph.
Lark in the Morning, last year's Fred Winter winner, and Joseph not having a bad time this week so far. Yeah, look, I'm actually a big fan of Cargate. I was last year. Her juvenile hurdle form, you kind of alluded to it already. Second in the Triumph, second in Aintree, second in Punch, or she actually won in Punchestown. She's so tough to kind of go back to back in all those festivals. I like you said, in Ascot, maybe she wasn't massively impressive. Quite hard on herself. Keen second that day to take no chances. Who ran well earlier in the week. Look, if she settles, I think she's going to take a whack of beating. I think it's notable that Paul rode her, and she's kind of in the mould of horses Willie has won this with in the past, kind of an improving novice. She's plenty of runs as juvenile, which leaves her sneak in here. Look, it's notable Paul rode her. I thought Absurd would be his pick here, but one at a bigger price who I'd give a bit of a shout to, Irish Panther for the Harty team under Cian Cullinane, a claimer who knows him quite well. He actually promised an awful lot as a bumper horse when he was with Edward O'Grady in the Mulrine colours, but I think he was his second to Factifoil, and he was third to Ballyburn in a couple of bumper starts. Kind of going into his hurdling campaign, then you thought this looks like a really promising horse, but didn't really pan out for him for whatever reason. I'm not sure how many times he's ran, 10 or 12 times, and he's still a maiden. So it would be a fairly emphatic way to break that maiden tag in the county hurdle. But look, I'm not sure is he good enough to win this. But I thought his last run at the DRF behind McLaury was quite eye-catching. He's held up a little bit keen. He's got the hood on. But I thought he nearly travelled too well into the race that day. And kind of the same story again at Christmas. He kind of hit the front and stayed on again then when he was asked for a bit. Look, I just think 16-1. He's meeting the likes of a McLaury on better terms here. He's probably just a little bit too big a price for me, I'd say. A bit of an each way shout there for Irish Panther. But we'll go on to the next race of the day, the 240, the grade 2 Mayor's Novice Chase, Paddy Power Mayor's Novice Chase. And we've got a rematch of last year's contest. Dino Blue and Limerick Lace were the 1-2 last year for JP McManus, and they're both lining up here again. Dino Blue is the 11 to 10 favourite, with Boyle Sports. This year, Allegory de Vassy, another one from the Mullen stable, 7-2. Brides Hill for Keith Donoghue and Gavin Cromwell, 6-1. And last year's winner, Limerick Lace, interestingly enough, ridden by Jack Kennedy this year, is 6-1. Gavin, my thinking in this is Dino Blue looks the class act. Now, I did back her last year, which makes me a little bit weary to go again, but I think she should take a fair bit of beating here, even giving away the weight.
Yeah, I backed her last year myself. I think the ground didn't help her. I think to help Limerick Lace more. I think, Emma, you're just keeping your profits from yesterday. You're going for favourites on Friday because you don't get back on the yesterday. But, I think the top four, number 1, 2, 3, 4, Dino Blue, Brides Hill, Limerick Lace, Allegory de Vassy is where the action is at. Allegory de Vassy has tried to win this race twice. Now, what I'll say about her is when she goes left-handed, she jumps to her right a little bit. Now, similar to Solness, who jumps to his right, say, going around Leopardstown. Danny would keep Solness really wide at Leopardstown. You can't do that at Cheltenham. And similarly for Allegory de Vassy, she was kept very wide at Naas the last day to make sure that she, it didn't matter if she did jump to her right, but she can't do that at Cheltenham. So I'd be against her. She's tried to win it twice. Limerick Lace last year, I thought Keith gave it a brilliant ride. I didn't think Mark Walsh covered himself in glory on Dino Blue, but Limerick Lace's 2 runs this year have shown absolutely nothing. She seems to be gone at the game, so I couldn't have her. So I'm going to go for the forecast as if Cheltenham is not hard enough. I'm going to go for Dino Blue and Brides Hill. I think that Keith probably had the choice between Brides Hill and Limerick Lace. He's gone for Brides Hill. I backed her a while ago each way. Glad to see her run. She's going to get her ground. She's very ground dependent. She loves decent ground. Dino Blue will take a lot of beating. She's rated 157. Brides Hill is 153, and Dino Blue only has to give her £2. But at even money and 6-1, I think it's between those two. Keith will hold up Brides Hill for a late run and perhaps might finish, I think they might finish first and second. So the reverse forecast for me, Dino Blue and Brides Hill in what is not a strong race. Like the race is falling apart a little bit. Only by night went for the Arkle. Bioluminescence is not here. Spindleberry is not here, and Telepathique is not here. So I don't think it's a strong race.
Yeah, probably not a bad way to play it. Like you said, Limerick Lace, her form hasn't really been up to scratch this year. First time cheek piece is interesting. Will that take an effect on her? Brides Hill, yeah, you'd imagine this drying ground will suit her as well. But look, I'm going to stick with Dino Blue, but I think the forecast mightn't be a bad shout. Dino Blue, I was actually in Cork on Hilly Way Day, and JP came down that day, and they seemed to back her to win that day, to beat an Ergamine and Banbridge. Form of that hasn't worked out too bad. Look, I don't think she's maybe at the level she was last year. I thought she was a certainty coming into this race last year, but maybe, like you said, the ground and a few other factors didn't play in her favour, but hopefully she can get the job done this year. For favourite backers who are having a hard enough time this week, we'll go on to the next race, the Albert Bartlett Grade 1 Novice Hurdle over the 3 miles, and favourite backers might look away in this one. I think the last number of years there's been plenty of big price winners in this. And I think this is very open, Gavin. I thought maybe one of either Final Demand or the Yellow Clay might go to this, but without those kind of 2 big players, it looks fairly wide open. I think the big Westerner is favourite at the moment for Henry de Barmhead and Darrow O'Keefe. Henry looking to get off the board. Last year's champion bumper winner Jasmine DeVoe next to the betting 15-2. Jet Blue for the French Raiders 15-2, and it's 8 bar those. Look, I'm probably looking at something at a bigger price. Gavin, what's your thoughts?
I wouldn't stop you from looking for a bigger price, because the last 10 winners, the average price has been more than 20-1. And I was chatting to a bookies representative one of the previous nights, and he said that this race every year is their most profitable race every year. So just to keep that in mind. I think I've gone through the pace angle on this race, and of any race for the week, I think this has got the most pace in it. So I think they're going to go, there's like 7 or 8 that like to make the running, and I think they're going to go lickety split, and I think they're going to go too fast. And as a result, I think if you back a hold-up horse, I think you've got a better chance. Flicker of Hope is interesting. I think he's got an each-way squeak. He came from a handicaps for Mark Fahey, and he definitely has a chance. I backed the big Westerner ages ago. I'm praying she wins, but the only little worry is the ground. I think she's a class act. She bet the boys in a maiden hurdle. She won over, say, 2.7.5 furlong at Limerick at Christmas. She beat Mozzie's sister, who was third to Final Demand since. And Mozzie's sister actually runs today in Limerick, so keep an eye on that race today at the Grade 3 hurdle. I'd give the Big Westerner a big chance, but I think Jet Blue is probably underestimated, around 8-1. Comes from France, ran over 1.5 miles, ran a couple of times over 2 miles too. And then the last day at Cheltenham stepped up to 3 miles. Now, it wasn't a strong race at all, but I just think because it was held up, it's won over the course and distance on the new track. James Reevey will ride. I think the fast run race will really suit it. And yeah, either Jet Blue each way probably is the selection just ahead of the Big Westerner.
Yeah, I'd have massive respect for Jet Blue, the French rider. I remember him winning in Cheltenham last day. And I think his form in France lines up quite well with graded winners over there. So always a danger seeing a fancied French horse coming over here. Look, I think Wingman is probably capable of winning this. Like he ran a good race to be second behind Final Le Mans in the Nathaniel Lacey. Third in the Lauders before that. It's pretty solid form, I think, without being exceptional. He's probably liable to maybe a classier horse coming out, but he probably is capable of winning it. It wouldn't be a bad shout at 8-1. But the one who I'm kind of getting drawn into is Argento Boy for Willie Mullins, Rachel Blackmore taking the ride. I actually kind of half fancied him for last year's bumper, disappointed completely that day. And he's a horse, I suppose consistency might be one of his bigger issues. He was very impressive winning his bumper initially under Jody in Fairy House. Didn't really kick on from there. Ended up being a little bit disappointing in that sphere. He was actually second to the Big Westerner on Hurdle's debut. I think he did a lot wrong that day. He's jumping. He can be a bit lackadaisical jumping at times. I think Paul was saying he's a bit immature, has a bit of growing up to do. But I think stepping up to 3 miles, he stepped up to 3 miles last time in Punchestown. He won quite well. The form of that race didn't actually work out too bad. I think a couple of horses came out and won from in behind him, and he was an emphatic winner that day. Look, he has to do things a bit more professionally than he has been, but I think the 3 mile trip might suit him. He's definitely a horse with a bit of class. He's bred to be a Cheltenham Festival winner. I think a half further to Briar Hill. So look, I'm going to take a chance on Argento Boy to kind of put a bit of consistency together in the Albert Bartlett 14-1 of the Rachel Blackmore. I'll go on to the next race then on the card. It's the big one is next. It's at the Gold Cup, 4:00.
Yeah.
And look, what are we going to say about this, Gavin? I suppose we're on the verge of history. Galopin Des Champs going towards his third Gold Cup, and he's 8-15 to do so. Banbridge, I suppose, the biggest contender to him. They've never actually met over fences anyway, I'm pretty sure. I don't think they've met over hurdles either. He is the King George winner, trying the trip for the first time. He is maybe the unknown in the field. I know the way you're thinking. Interesting, supplemented for this race by JP McManus and Gavin Cromwell. Monty Starr maybe looked a bit more promising earlier in the year, but was put to bed by Galopin Des Champs last time. Can you see any holes in Galopin Des Champs, Gavin?
Not really. Going left-handed, sure, what is he? Should be 10 from 10, except for what happened to him in the Turners. It's very interesting that Banbridge, Galopin Des Champs, and I know the way you're thinking. I think it's between those three. I think it's a poor race by those three. The three that actually won handicaps at Cheltenham back in the day. Banbridge and Galopin Des Champs won 2 Martin Pipes, and I know the way you're thinking won the Kim Muir last year. So it just shows maybe that handicaps are the way to maybe get to a Gold Cup. I think that what happened yesterday at Cheltenham with the 2 winners that Michael O'Sullivan rode, and then for the 2 of them to win yesterday was obviously a massive, massive story. And I think the only way that can be surpassed this week is if Galopin Des Champs wins his 3rd Gold Cup. I think he will. Hard to know who's going to be second, perhaps. Banbridge for me, because the ground was decent. I know the way you're thinking was a huge eye catcher the last day in the Irish Gold Cup. He would prefer it softer. His jumping is like a 6 out of 10 for me, but he's got a huge engine. He loved the step up and trip. He's guaranteed, you'd imagine, to be in the first 3 for Mark Walsh. But yeah, I'd love to see Galopin Des Champs win. Don't see why not. As I said, to me, when he goes right-handed, his jumping is not as good. But left-handed, it doesn't matter. Even if something else makes the running, he can sit second, he can lead. You might think it's a race coming to 2 out, something will loom up like the last 8 Leopardstown, but in the end, he'll just pull away to win by 3 or 4 lengths. And I'd love to see him win his 3rd Gold Cup.
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of on the same page with that one. I know there's been a few kind of major disappointments already this week. We mentioned at the start, but I'm hoping he can get a clear run of things and write his name, I suppose, furthermore into history by doing it 3 times. He's a brilliant, brilliant horse. I suppose JJ Slevin's maybe one of the only men riding who knows how to beat Galopin Des Champs. I'm sure he's looking forward to another crack at him, but look, I don't think I can see Banbridge getting past him realistically. Maybe Corbett's Cross and each way shout 18-1, 3 places. Very interesting seeing Jack Kennedy taking the ride on him. I don't think he's really shown himself to the best of light, I suppose, so far this year. He was brilliant in Cheltenham last year, winning the Old National Hunt Chase under Derek O'Connor. look, he has a lot to improve on form-wise, but if Jack can get him into a rhythm, I wouldn't be surprised to see him running a big race, running into the places at least at 18-1. But both in agreement, Galopin Des Champs hopefully will make history in the Gold Cup at 4 o'clock on Friday. But we'll go on to the next race, the Hunters Chase. I suppose the big one for the amateurs, the Amateur Gold Cup at the Cheltenham Festival. It can be a little bit of a tricky one for punters, though plenty of point-to-point form coming through here, which can be a little bit hard to navigate at times. Gavin, I suppose, look, do you get involved in the Hunters Chase, or do you kind of take a break after the Gold Cup is finished?
Not really, no. Very, very small bet. And in fact, if it was at a normal meeting, I wouldn't have a bet. But just because it's Cheltenham, I might have a small interest. Will it go ahead is the best jumper in the race, but hard to know what he's beaten yet. Got beat at Limerick and then won well at Thurles. Will love decent ground. The trainer's very confident if he gets good ground, he'd be hard to beat. Also, the right favourite is definitely Angel's Dawn. For Sam Curling, won the Kim Muir 2 years ago. I'm going to ask you a very unfair question, Emma. Do you remember what it beat? I only had to check myself earlier. I didn't remember. I had to look. What did it beat in the Kim Muir 2 years ago? Unfair question.
What did it beat in the Kim Muir 2 years ago? God, she fed last year when she was upside. I know the way you're thinking. God, I can't remember.
I wouldn't have got it either. I had to go back and check, but it was actually Stumptown. So that's interesting with him having won yesterday. So look, she loves Cheltenham. As we said, her 2 runs in the Kim Muir 2 years ago and last year were very good. She sets a good standard. It's on the line, was poor the last day, Nace behind Rye Hill. Rye Hill can make the odd mistake, so watch out for that. Look, at no real strong opinion. Maybe will it go ahead, but very little confidence, Emma.
Yeah, I'd be kind of thinking similar lines. Angel Dawn, definitely the class act in the race. Cheltenham Festival, and I was running a huge race when she came down. She wasn't going to beat her, I know the way you're thinking, but he was obviously very well handicapped on the day, so she'll take a fair bit of whacking. She's been very good in Boolta and Drumahan on her 2 starts in the point sphere. I just thought one who's maybe a little bit interesting stepping back into this company, Karen Funnock for the Crawfords. Avid followers of Better Days Ahead might remember he actually beat him in his initial maiden hurdle start at Down Royal 2 years ago. Obviously didn't pan out to be the same level as Wednesday's Brown Advisory third, but not a bad horse either. He won a handicap hurdle for the Crawfords afterwards. He didn't do a whole pile of racing over fences before he was kind of shifted back into Hunter's Chase Company. Interesting that they've gone that route. He was actually beaten first time out in his point-to-point by David Christie's winged leader, but he went on to win his next 2 points quite cosily. Look, I don't know, is he the same class as the likes of an Angel's Dawn, but he's probably a bit unexposed over fences and could be an improver. It's just interesting that the Crawfords took this route with him, and he's a horse without an awful lot of racing done, and definitely has a bit of class on his day, but no heavy involvement in the Hunters Chase for either of us. We'll go on to the last race of the Cheltenham Festival, the Martin Pipe, and kind of as you alluded to earlier, it's always a good pointer towards finding a good horse for the future. First and second favourite for the Gold Cup both came out of this one, Banbridge and Galopin Des Champs, and there's been a massive talking horse kind of throughout the Cheltenham Festival preview circuit, Kopek to Me, and he tops the betting here for Willie Mullins under the winner from 2 years ago, Aidan Kelly, so he knows how to win this race as well. Woodoo next in the betting for Gordon Elliott and Danny Gilligan, who won this last year 7-2. Tap on the Go for Mike O'Connor and Henry de Bromhead 8-1. East India Express 9-1. It's 10s bar those. Are you buying into this hype around this French horse, Gavin?
Sure, it's hard not to, Emma. It's hard not to. A lot of talk about it. The one thing you'll say is that cavalry charge in this conditional jockeys race, they do go quick. You definitely need a bit of luck. But yeah, Kopek to Me, had a look at its form, won his last 3, had 5 runs, obviously, which you need for a handicap nowadays, and won an tie the last day, where the second horse was second since over fences, and the third horse finished second in a Grade 1 contest. So the form looks rock solid. A lot of people believe that the horse shouldn't be let in here off 136. The British handicapper a couple of years ago changed the format to rate French horses when they come to Britain. They changed the multiple, I think, from 2.2 to 2.0 or something like that. So in here of 136, very, very hard to oppose. 5-2 generally, I think, at the minute, or 9-4. I think it could even go off shorter. I think it'll be the shortest priced favourite in any of the handicaps of the week. Just to mention Woodoo, fantastic mare. She's unbeaten over hurdles. She's 6 from 6. The form of her run in Leopardstown, in Cheltenham rather, a couple of months back is brilliant. The second, third and fourth of all won, including Joyous, etc. So look, she's got Danny Gilligan on board. He's a good jock for this race, and she'd have an each race squeak. But yeah, I think Kopek to Me, probably to try and get some of the punters out of jail on the last race on Friday.
Yeah, he's been well talked about it for it anyway, and it's kind of dangerous having a Willie Mullins gambling in a race like this. Galopin Des Champs springs to mind. But look, Voodoo was kind of my long-term fancy of this. She's probably not the typical mould of a Martin Pipe winner, but like you said, she's a bit of a winning machine. Her form stacks up. She's probably short enough now at about 7-2, but look, I'm not going to desert her now at this late stage, but definitely weary of the Mullins favourite, and that one probably worth watching any market moves there as well. But we'll wrap it up for the Friday, Gavin. Thanks very much for all your contributions all week long. Hopefully we found a few more winners on the final day. But before I let you go, I'll ask you for your best bet on the Friday.
I like the County Hurdle in terms of it's a really competitive race, but at least there's 5 places, which is a good concession for punters. So I'd like Lark in the morning each way. I like the forecast in the Mayor's Chase that we mentioned earlier. And probably bet of the day, unfortunately, just to be boring, I'll go for Kopek to me. And remember, Emma, don't give back all the money you won yesterday.
I'll try not to. Yeah, if I play it safe from here and I won't be too bad for the week, I'd say. Look, I think Friday's kind of difficult enough, a few kind of shorties in there, but I'm going to actually go for the Harties horse in the county. I think he could run a big race into the place money at least. He's 16-18 to 1 Irish Panther in the County Hurdle. Probably a horse with a little bit more to give, I'm hoping. And if you can break that maiden tag in the County Hurdle, it'll be some training performance by the Harties anyway, to say the least. But look, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks very much, Gavin, for everything over the whole week. And thanks everyone for tuning into the show. Again, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content.